This video is going to show you in a nutshell how to create a quiz. There's two steps to creating a quiz. First, you create the shell of the quiz itself, which is its name and any settings. And secondly, you create the questions. I'm going to go to Add an Activity or Resource and choose Quiz. Add. Now I name it. I'm going to name this one Quiz 1. And while you could stop here and that could go just purely with defaults for everything else, I'm going to expand all the setting options and tell you what they are. You can set an open date and a close date. You can set a time limit. You can choose to have attempts automatically submitted. The students must click the submit button, or there's a grace period where open attempts can be submitted but no more questions answered. I tend to suggest that one because I think that this automatic submission doesn't seem to work perfectly. But if you set the grace period, then to like 1 minute, they get a message that pops up that says you've run out of time, and you have 1 minute to click the submit button. Right, so that only applies really if you have the time limit enabled. I'm going to not bother here, but there we go. It automatically places the grade for a quiz inside of your gradebook. So if you're using your gradebook, you're going to need to take that into account, place it inside a category if there is one. If not, leave it uncategorized. You can go back into the gradebook and set the quiz to be worth 0% if you don't want it included in your calculations. Attempts allowed. Do you want unlimited attempts, or do you want to limit to 1? If you allow more than 1 attempt, you need to tell it, do you want it to take the highest grade or the average, first attempt, last attempt, so on. I'm going to set that to 1 attempt. Question order. Do you want these questions to show up in the order that you put them in? Do you want them to be random? Do you want each question on its own page? If each question is on its own page, do you want them to be able to move back and forth or forced into a sequential order? Within each question, do you want the answers shuffled? You can go back. Both of these things can be dealt with once you're making questions, so you don't have to set these here. This is just the default choice, and then you can go change them later. Review options is important. This is what they see after they've taken the test. If you don't want them to see the answers after they've taken the test, then you'll need to uncheck whether correct marks, because that's the point value. So if they got 0 point value, then they'll know they didn't get it correct. And then if you chose to include entered feedback, that would show. If you've set a close date on your quiz, then you can distinguish between these later while quiz is still open and after the quiz is closed. It's the most common thing that I see people do with quizzes is they set a date. That's done. You can't take it after that. Then they set it so that they can't see anything until the quiz is closed. I see that a lot. But, whatever the purpose of your quiz is will dictate. Maybe you need them to see how they did so they know whether to go back in and take it over again if this is a drill type of a quiz. Skip appearance, skip extra restriction on temps, extra feedback, overall feedback. This depends on the grade that they made, whether you want some sort of automatic feedback to show up. Common module, skip that. Restrict access, the same restrict access button, area that's on any site in Moodle where you can control who can see what. Activity completion. I've turned activity completion on for this course site. It's probably not turned on in your site since you have to choose to do that, but you can set it up so that once they've taken the quiz, something is recorded and it can be used later to trigger another item to turn on, but I would say ignore that too. All right, I'm going to click Save and Display, which now brings me to this page, which is I'm inside the quiz, but there are no questions yet, so I need to click on Edit Quiz in order to add questions. There's no questions. This maximum grade is the total point value for the quiz itself. One option is to go ahead and set that to what you expect it to be, and then it doesn't matter what what's called the marks. That's the point value per question totals up to. It will extrapolate that to meet your maximum grade. Another option is to wait until you've put in all the questions, see what that total of marks is, and just make that be whatever it is. I'm going to click on Save, and I'm going to add a new question. Multiple choice is exactly what it sounds like. True, false is exactly what it sounds like. Short answer is a automatically graded question type in which students have to enter a word or a series of words that are exactly as you have dictated them to be. If you want a short answer or an essay that you grade so that there's a lot more flexibility in what they put in, then you choose the essay option. So matching is exactly what it sounds like. If you're going to use matching, do that one. Don't do the drag and drop matching because if the students don't have the right version of Java on their computer, that one won't work. These others are for math questions, and this is for if you use a particular type of programming language called close. All right, so I'm just going to pick multiple choice, add. I need to give the question a name, and that's because anytime you create a quiz, it creates a question bank with those, and the question bank questions are ordered and labeled by this question name. So I'm just going to call it quiz 1, question 1. Question text, apples are what color? This is the point value for this question. I'll make the point value for this question 25 points. Are there going to be more than one answer? It's multiple choice. I can have multiple answers allowed or one answer only. If I do multiple answers allowed, they need to, the mark or the grade for each question needs to add up to 100%. Yeah, the grade needs to be 100% of that default mark. What that means is if you choose multiple answers allowed, they get partial credit for each one that's correct, and you assign the amount of that partial credit. I'm going to say multiple answers allowed. I'm going to say red, blue, and yellow. And then of that 25 points that this question is worth, if they chose red, they get half that credit. If they chose blue, they get none of that credit. If they chose yellow, they get half that credit. If I had chosen mark only 1, then that would have to be 100% and everything else would have to be none. If I need more than 5 options, I can add them. If I don't need 5, I just leave them blank and they don't show up in the question. Go ahead and skip all that. It's not really of any use. I'm going to click Save Changes. And there's my question. I'm going to add another question, a new question. This time I'm going to add an essay question. Q2. Well, quiz 1, Q2. That's my way. Describe an apple. And that's going to be worth, I'm going to say that's worth 75 points. Do you want them to have a little HTML editor when they go to answer, or just straight text? HTML editor with file picker allows them to upload a file into their answer, which could be nice if you have an image or something like that, plain text, so on and so on. I'm just going to say HTML editor. Do you want to force them to enter something, or can they leave it blank? Text input is optional. I think, that's going to be up to you and what you want to do. Input box size, do you want that to be, how big do you want it to be? They can write all they want. This is just visually how large is the box they can write in, and sometimes that can serve as a cue for how much you expect. Allow attachments, that's if you want them to be able to attach something to answer their question. You can require them. If you allow an attachment, let's say I allow 1, and I can say there's 1 required attachment that they can't proceed without it. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just showing you that that is an option here. Response template, that's if you want to create some sort of a template. If you have graders, you can put like what's the correct answer. Save changes and continue editing. Essay questions, you do have to go in and grade yourself. I must have done something wrong because it's not letting me move on. Default, let's see here. Oh, I think I clicked and continue editing. There we go, just straight save changes. There we go. Now I have my 2 questions. Now I intentionally made them add up so that they'd match my maximum grade. That's up to you. I could repaginate and say I want that on one page and that on one page. If I need to go back in and change a question, I can come click on that little pencil that allows me to go back in and edit the question. If I need to delete a question, I can do that. If I need to change its point value, I can just edit that right there. I can change my maximum grade. So those are all the things I can do on this page. I can now preview my quiz over here. And that shows me what this quiz looks like. There we go. blah, 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 blah. Next. There. Because I told it not to show me any correct answers. I need to, wait, no, I'm sorry. This is what the student sees, and it just shows that this is your summary, but you need to click the Submit All and Finish. Sometimes students forget that. They really need to do it. Submit All and Finish. There we go. I set it to not tell me the grade when I was done, so that's why I don't see anything here. But if you had set it to allow that, that would have happened. And that is the basics of how to create a quiz in Moodle.